Hey, thank God WikiLeaks happened, huh? We know a lot about the war crimes that America commits as a matter of regular policy. Also, turns out you dig a little deeper into WikiLeaks, and it turns out they found evidence that alcohol, big alcohol, meaning, drug dealers in suits, big alcohol is working to undermine marijuana legalization, WikiLeaks confirms. No kidding. Not only that, but a reporter for marijuana.com dug a little deeper. His name is Tom Angle. He dug a little deeper, and he found a daily e-newsletter sent to Capitol Hill insiders that included a paid advertisement from the Wine and Spirit Wholesalers of America, the WSWA. Wine and Spirits. I like they call it spirits. That's just so funny. The booze dealers, drug dealers, wine and drug wholesalers of America, warning against the dangers of marijuana. Oh, boy, because if there's anybody who cares about the health of Americans, it's the guys who are dealing booze. Oh, they care about the health of America, don't they?
They do. That's what the mobsters in the 20s, that was all about fitness and feeling positive body outlook.
Yes, that's what it was. That's what the rum runners were all about. Yeah. Right. The bootleggers. Yeah. It was about health. Okay. It's funny. This is fun to say. It turns out in May 24th of 2016, in the May 24, 2016 edition of Huddle. What's Huddle? Huddle is a newsletter produced by the Politico website. Politico. And the WSWA's advertisement reads, that's the Wine and Spirits. What's the extra? What's that last W? Wine and Spirits?
Weeping?
What is it? The Wine and Wholesalers. That's it. Gotcha. Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America.
Truckloads.
Here's what their ad read in that newsletter that was produced by Politico. The ad said, while neutral on the issue of legalization, WSWA believes states that legalize marijuana need to ensure appropriate effective regulations are enacted to protect the public from the dangers associated with the abuse and misuse of marijuana. Boy, if there's anybody who cares about the dangers of abuse of other drugs, it's the guys who sell the most destructive drug in the history of drugs, alcohol. Boy, it turns out they really care. They really don't want marijuana to hurt people.
Well, they would know. They're experts.
They're experts in hurting people.
Yeah, on destroying families.
Destroying families, killing people.
Causing horrible car accidents. Yeah.
So their ad, the WSWA's ad that was in this newsletter that went to Capitol Hill, it says, in the years since the state legalized medicinal use, Colorado law enforcement officials have documented a significant increase in traffic fatalities in which drivers tested positive for marijuana. That's the WSWA's advertisement to newsmen. They also say, they conclude by saying Congress should fully fund Section 4008 of the FAST Act in the fiscal year 2017 appropriations process to document the prevalence of marijuana-impaired driving, outline impairment standards, and determine driving impairment detection methods. So they're really worried about marijuana drivers. I think it's called Mothers Against Drunk Driving, not Mothers Against Marijuana Driving. I think we know what the problem. So these guys, they're all pretending. I just love they really care about traffic fatalities. That's why they stopped selling booze.
Yeah.
And now they're going after marijuana. Oh, wait, they're still selling it.
Oh. I thought to save lives, they abandoned their entire industry.
No, they did not. They care about lives, but not that much.
Enjoy responsibly.
Yeah. So get this, though. So this guy from marijuana.com did a little, he said, apart from appearing on the WikiLeaks website, meaning this advertisement, that particular issue of Huddle That's this particular issue of that newsletter that is produced by Politico that is sent to Capitol Hill. That particular issue of Huddle with the WSWA statement appears on Inbox Cart, a website that archives e-newsletters. So why is this significant, Jimmy? Well, because interestingly, the WSWA statement does not appear with the text of that issue in the Huddle archive on Politico, meaning that ad doesn't appear in that Huddle e-newsletter actually in the archive. Why? Where's that? And what? That ad isn't there? It seems to have only appeared in the emailed version. Also, only in the emailed version is the following text before the main subject line, quote, Political Huddle, presented by Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America. So, in other words, the WSWA Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America, the booze advertisement and sponsorship credits seem to have only appeared in the version sent directly to the inboxes of Congress members and Beltway insiders. So even the regular people who see this email didn't see this. This was only sent in the email version of this newsletter that went to actual politicians and Beltway insiders. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
That's very interesting. It's like they're going out of their way to kind of try to make this manipulation of congressional members secret.
Yeah.
Right?
It's almost like,
and Politico's enabling that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Politico.
They're trying to influence the lawmaking process to their benefit without it being discovered.
And they're pretending to be doing it all in the guise of health. Because if there's anybody who cares more about health and traffic safety, it's the guy selling booze in America. Jesus Christ. You know what? Oreos is coming out, too. They're a little worried about the menu at McDonald's.
Yeah.
The guys at Oreos.
Yes. Yeah.
They want to make sure that people eating at McDonald's are healthy. They're not giving but what?
We need diabetes tips on the placemats.
So here's the interesting thing. Here's even more interesting things. The WSWA statement didn't mention, of course, that a 2011 study found a reduction in traffic fatalities in states that had legalized medical marijuana. Huh? What? You mean the booze guy is actually giving me erroneous BS information that actually props up his drug and hurts someone else's drug in a dishonest way? You're telling me guys who sell booze aren't the paragon of honesty?
I'm shocked.
I am shocked. I am shocked.
I'll never trust another bikini advertisement again.
We pretend that. So guess what? So the fatalities in states that legalized medical marijuana, the traffic fatalities went down. But this is likely because folks have been turning to legal cannabis instead of alcohol. So the more people smoke pot instead of drinking, fatalities go down. So alcohol, which they say impairs driving far more dramatically than pot. But the question of marijuana impaired driving is widely misunderstood. For instance, this is all from marijuana.com, by the way. For instance, it is true that Colorado has seen an increase in road fatalities since legalization in 2012. As well as an increase in cannabis-related driving offenses. But the increase in fatalities is consistent with the national trend and probably related to low oil prices, meaning people are driving more, which is why fatalities have gone up nationally. So that's, again, there's three kinds of lies. There's lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Right.
So that's what they're using. So of course the booze dealers, the booze drug dealers are using statistics to skew the actual reality. Yes. Okay. Because guess what? They've actually studied this. They actually have studied this, Hank. Did you know?
The WSWA?
The NHTSA has studied. That's the National Highway Traffic Safety. There you go.
Alcohol
Authority.
No,
the NHTSA. They did a drug and alcohol crash study risk. And what were the findings, Jimmy? They've actually studied this already. The study found that alcohol use by drivers was clearly associated with elevated risk of crash involvement. Drivers who had been drinking at the 0.08 breath concentration had about 4 times the risk of crashing as sober drivers. And drivers whose alcohol levels were at the 0.15, that's like a drink and a half. If you have a drink and a half, your blood level will go to 0.15. Average persons.
Yeah.
Will go to 0.1, right around there. They had a 12-time higher risk.
Man. That's crazy.
What about pot? Did they study that? Turns out they did.
Oh, good.
Drivers participating in the study were treated for a large number of potentially impairing drugs. Both oral and blood samples were taken. Marijuana THC was the only single category of drug for which study findings reached statistical significance. And what was their findings that was statistically significant? Well, you ready? Drivers testing positive for THC were overrepresented in the crash-involved case population, meaning there was a higher level of guys with THC in their blood or people with THC in their blood that actually were in crashes. So maybe it's THC. Hang on, hold on to your hats. However, when demographic factors such as age and gender and alcohol use were controlled, the study did not find an increase in population-based crash risk associated with THC use. So when you go, there's a lot more people in crashes that have THC, yeah, but a lot of those people are young males, which have a higher rate of crashes.
Yeah. Scariest people.
So once you control for that, and you control for the people who also were drinking, there is no increase in population-based crash risk associated with THC use. Or as the USA Today put it, new study shows no link between marijuana use and car accidents. None. No link. Again, I'm telling you, it's a wonder drug. Look what it does for aged patients. Look what it does for them. Imagine what it'll do for your flu. That's what I tell people. Whenever I get the flu, I always take a little weed. Boom! I feel fantastic. I even take it at the first sign of a sniffle.
You take it when you're healthy.
I take it when I'm healthy. It's more of a preventative thing, actually. Every night I'm doing my flu control. That's what I call it. Jimmy, what are you doing? Flu control?
A daily vaccination.
Yes, I have to vaccinate myself every day. So thank God for WikiLeaks. And of course we knew the guys selling booze. Again, people selling booze, just like anybody else, right? If there's money in it, they'll do it. It's bad to sell. If it's bad to sell booze, no, it's good to sell booze. That's American. It sponsors college football, for Christ's sake. Can you sell crack? No, you have to go to jail for that. But if you're white and rich and you sell a drug that about 30% of Americans have a problem with every year, hey, you're a good guy. You're a good guy. So I love this. Marijuana, power.